Now, you then say to yourself, okay, all these wonderful things are happening, but God, these guys on the surface of the planet, these minions, these cabal, their levels of corruption, why did heaven choose us? I mean, this is a world where you seemingly, the bad guys run the show, and how do we wind up winning out? So let's look. First of all, Gaia's special dispensation. As we have said and intimated, Earth is the instrument by which this part of physicality was manifested. Hence, Earth and Heaven agreed to support us during our time in darkness. Now, when the experiments of the Atlanteans occurred roughly about 15,000 years ago, and we spent a few thousand years with the Atlanteans as their little lab rats, that's why we have all kinds of, when people think of Atlantis, especially us, since we are the ancestors, they are our ancestors, we are the progeny, maybe tens of thousands of years, so to speak, actually 13 millennia down, this imposed quarantine is about to end. The light is shifting the surface of this planet. We have been supported. We've got avatars, we've got ascended masters. Anytime people have attempted to really destroy us, they've always been forced to leave not just a little bit of survivors, a lot of survivors. And these survivors remembered. They remembered about Lemuria. They had an inkling about that ancient level. Even the ancient Egyptians talked about their home being the land sunk in the great ocean to the west. They didn't know about this great ocean to the west. They only knew about the Mediterranean. But they knew that there was a great ocean. They knew there was land on the other side of that great ocean. And they explored it. One of the things we are learning in looking at the Americas is the amazing amount of civilizations that have come from Africa, Europe, Australia, Asia, to the Americas. This is something that we have only learned about in the last really few hundred years. We now are beginning to prove that these things are real. So understand that Lemuria actually existed, Atlantis actually existed, and a third continent in the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka, actually existed. All of this sunk at one time. We are remnants of 3 golden ages, which ended by fire and by water. And then so it went water, fire, water. The last water being the immense flood roughly about 8,000 years ago. It was a worldwide event. If you check every major remnant of civilization on this planet, they all have stories of the Great Flood, roughly around 7,800 to 8,000 years ago. This is a geological fact. It's also a mythological fact. So you have to understand there was a last golden age. When the Egyptians talk about their ancestors, and the Sumerians talk about their ancestors, and the Indians and the Chinese, for instance, talk about their ancestors, the Polynesians talk about their ancestors, etc. Also the civilizations of the Americas. We find out that there were these great civilizations. What we've actually done is what von Humboldt talked about. When von Humboldt in the 19th century, he was an early German anthropologist. When he looked at the savagery in Africa, the savagery in parts of Pacific, back then in the Pacific and in parts of the Americas, especially in South America, there were headhunters, there were all kinds of things like cannibals. And so you had to say to yourself, okay, these are warlike, but they're doing really what to us are unbelievably barbaric. Why are they doing this? Yet they talk about civilizations that were so advanced and so peaceful, golden ages. So he immediately talked about these so-called savages are not savages moving up towards civilization. They're just the opposite. They're the declining aspects of a once advanced series of civilizations. And sure enough, we discover that 2,000 years ago, an advanced, incredible, empire existed around Fiji in the central Pacific Ocean. Think of that. There's very little signs of it. You've got Panape and a few other sites which prove that what we're talking about isn't just something we made up in our dreams, but it's real.